So are you finding it a little bit more difficult to fall asleep as you get older? I'm going to talk about that in this video.
Let's go.
Hi, welcome. I'm Coach Tonya, the holistic health practitioner here at Critical Bench. I hope you're all having a good day. Before I get started, I just want to say I'm here in Tampa, Florida, and it is rainy and stormy and loud outside. So if you're hearing some like background noise, that's what it is. It's the rain coming down so hard. It sounds like, you know, that saying, it's raining cats and dogs. Seriously, it sounds like it's raining Volkswagen bugs and school buses. It's very loud. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about sleep and sleep challenges, particularly the ones that we seem to face as we get older. But before I mention that, I do want to tell you about a product we have that can actually help with your sleep and a lot of things, and it is the Forward Head Posture Fix. If you click that pinned comment below and click on that link, it'll take you to a page where you can read more about that product. Now, the great thing with Forward Head Posture Fix is a lot of times our posture and, you know, the fact that our spinal column isn't properly aligned can create a lot of discomfort, a lot of tension, a lot of tightness, headaches, a lot of other things, and that can interfere with your sleep as well. So if you are somebody that struggles with sleep, if you're finding it more and more difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep, check out that pinned comment for another great product that can help. Okay, so moving right along. I was actually motivated to make this video based on a lot of your comments that I was reading in YouTube. And it kept coming up a bit about, you know, certain subscribers or viewers would comment with what their age is and that they were struggling to fall asleep or finding it more difficult to fall asleep than when they were younger. Now, what's interesting is a lot of these people also acknowledge that, you know, they eat well, they live a healthy lifestyle, they're still active. So why on earth does it seem that it becomes harder to fall asleep? Now, I can attest to that. I'm actually a pretty good sleeper by all accounts. However, I have noticed in the last 2 years that I can be really tired, and for some reason, I get into bed and I'm like, I can't fall asleep. I'm struggling to fall asleep. And I'm also finding that I do wake up a little more now than I used to. So it's a very valid question, and I wanted to address it here. So the first thing we need to keep in mind is that as we get older, the body does age. The mechanisms age. Things start to slow down, and they don't necessarily behave, function, react, respond like they did when we were younger. It's just a natural part of aging. And I'm emphasizing the natural part of aging as opposed to things that maybe we do lifestyle-wise that can actually complicate a lot of stuff. So as we get older, we have these neurological receptors that connect sleep signaling chemicals. Here comes that rain again. And they start to weaken, okay? And basically, in a nutshell, it just really makes it much more challenging for your brain to figure out when you're tired, okay? So these receptors, they get older, just like you do, okay? Now, an interesting fact, because I was wanted to actually try and get some facts, but older, it didn't give an age, but older people, and I believe, though, it did say from like 55 on as the baseline, wake up an average of 3 to 4 times a night. And along with that, they tend to be more aware when they do wake up. So you may have little kids that, you know, they get up at night because they have to use the bathroom or they've had a bad dream. Yeah, life in Florida. But typically, younger people, you can, once you calm them down, typically they can fall asleep rather easily and quickly after having been woken or waking up. Not quite the same the older we get. Now, if you get up and you're awake, so you start doing things, well, clearly that is going to kind of get your brain in action, so that does nothing to help foster and support going back to sleep. But typically, and what the research shows us is that as we get older and we're waking up more during the nighttime, we're actually more aware when we wake up, and that does make it harder to fall asleep. Because if you're aware, you just think of it as like you're turned on, meaning you are aware, you're more alert, and once the brain is aware and alert, it's much harder to get it to fall back to sleep, especially when it's already had some, so it's even a little bit rested. So there's nothing really we can do when it comes to getting older. We are going to get older. These receptors are going to weaken. So there's not a whole lot we can do to reverse that, but there are things that we can do lifestyle-wise to help foster and support better sleep. So falling asleep much more easily, and hopefully staying asleep for longer periods of time, and things that we can do in those moments when we do wake up. So I have a few tips and a few suggestions here that I wrote down. So one is to maybe have like a light snack, and I'm not talking about a whole meal. Eating a really large, heavy meal, within an hour of going to bed is not a really good idea, and it will really disrupt your sleep. But a light snack an hour or more before might actually help. Now, I don't know if any of you, depending on the age of the audience I'm speaking to right now, but how many of you have had a grandmother or an older relative ever tell you or offer a small glass of warm milk before bed? I know I have. Growing up when I was little, that was something my grandmother did a lot, if not every night, but particularly if my brother and sister and I were particularly rambunctious, you might say, she would give us a small, maybe like 4 ounces of just warm milk. Now, what's interesting about that is that warm milk does contain a natural sedative-like amino acid that, it's not going to knock you out, it's not necessarily going to put you to sleep, but it might help create that, might help with some calmness and just kind of bringing the energy levels down. So a light snack might be helpful. If you find, now, let me back up here. It's also what you have for that light snack, okay? If it's a light snack, but it's very high in sugar, caffeine, and again, if it's not light, that's not really gonna do a lot to help you. But something light, something small, definitely an hour or more, at least an hour before bed, might help you. Clearly avoiding stimulants like caffeine, okay? Caffeine can help. You can be, what's interesting with caffeine is you can be absolutely dead dog tired. But caffeine will just you'll just be a wide awake, tired person. Any of you that have maybe gone to post-secondary education and trying to pull all-nighters to study for exams may have done things like drank coffee, or you can take caffeine tablets to help stay awake. I know I used to drink a lot of coffee in university, and I remember, attempting to pull the all-nighters and study. The problem is I still got really tired. I just couldn't fall asleep, so it was just a mess. So basically what ended up happening was walking into an exam the next day, a mess, a mess. So you do want to avoid stimulants and things that, really will just keep you awake, that will prevent you and get in the way of falling asleep. Another one is, and this can be a little bit more difficult as we get older, particularly like looking at senior years, the golden years, and with certain, particularly too with certain health issues that might pop up, and that is avoiding napping during the day. Now, I'm not saying don't nap. I know a lot of older people, my parents included, that do have a quick nap in the middle of the day, but their nap is like maybe 20 minutes. They don't, lay down, kind of get into that fully going to bed environment and sleep for like an hour and a half. It's a quick, it's a cat nap, so it's somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes, and that works. It's a little rest midday to help them carry on with the rest of their day, because they're older, they get more tired, and they have a few health issues that also will make them more tired during their day. The problem is when the naps turn into basically short sleeps. Okay, so sleeping for an hour and a half. Now, this is obviously outside of the fact somebody that is sick, somebody that has a health issue, somebody that is going to be doing a lot of resting to help their body repair. If you're otherwise healthy and you don't have any health issues that require you to rest a lot, taking a long nap or taking several naps during the day will certainly disrupt your sleep. Okay, so you want to watch that. I'm not going to say avoid it, but if you do feel the need and know that you have to have a nap because it helps, keep it short. Okay, keep it short. Exercise. Now, moderate Moderate exercise on a consistent, regular basis is just something that supports a healthy lifestyle, which then can help support falling asleep, staying asleep, because your body needs to repair when it's resting. When it comes to exercise, some people find that exercising later in the day is disruptive to their sleep, and this is not really even age related. I know for myself, I prefer to work out in the morning anyways. But I know if I miss a workout and I think, well, after work, I'll go get a quick workout in, it completely, I'm wide awake for a very long time. My idea of, going to bed at 10 o'clock is shot, because there's something about exercising late in the day that just gets my body completely alert, wide awake. My brain is nowhere near ready to go to sleep or calm down anytime soon. So it might be something you have to play with. I have talked to people that, they can exercise later in the day and it works best for them. It kind of makes them, once they've exercised and they've had a meal, that's it, they're done. They're ready, their body and their brain is ready for rest. But moderate exercise daily and regularly as part of a healthy lifestyle is a really good thing to include to help support better sleep. This one I believe I talked about in another video. I'm just trying to remember. And probably would be my number one tip, and that is to really establish a pre-bedtime routine. Our bodies and our brains love routine. They respond very well to a routine. And with that, having a set routine, it becomes part of your normal everyday, your default system. And what will happen over the course of a few weeks is, if you are consistent with these little behaviors that you're implementing, your brain and your body will get into that zone where they're like, oh, calming down. TV's going off. We're jumping in the tub, got some lavender essential oil, a little bit of reading, some light music, pulling the shades, making the room really dark. Really, it doesn't have to be big and elaborate. There are things that you probably have in your life that help to get you calmed down, help to get you, sleepy, and that help you to have a better sleep. I'm sure any of us can recall days and evenings where we've had a much better sleep, and can probably pinpoint a few things that we did later in that evening and be like, I know that bubble bath and a little bit of reading, that was one of the best sleeps I've had in weeks, okay? Do more of those things. But it's really important to establish a routine and establish something that works for you. Now, when people ask me about that, they say, well, when do I have to start? Do I have to start right after dinner? Do I have to? And what happens is then people start thinking of it as another job. So I don't want you to do that, because that's going to create stress and tension, which now is going to sabotage all the good things we're trying to do. Usually my suggestion is, if you're really good and consistent with your bedtime, and if you're not, that needs to be part of your routine, because that will help. Going to bed at the same time most nights is going to be huge in helping you fall asleep and stay asleep. But for most of us that kind of have that, I'm usually in bed by 10 o'clock, 10:30, somewhere in there. About an hour before is when you want to start practicing behaviors that support sleep. So, shutting off the TV, shutting off the phone, turning it over, not answering emails, things that stimulate the brain, that keep you awake, that get you engaged, that have your brain, working things out. You want to start eliminating those things, and maybe reading is what works for you. Maybe you do like to walk, or take the dog out and you walk around the block a couple times, hour, 45 minutes before bedtime. Whatever behaviors and patterns can help, start implementing those at least an hour before bedtime to sort of establish that routine to help support your sleep. Make sure your room is really, really dark, okay? For really good sleep to happen, your brain does not need any light coming in. So there's things that you can do about that. Sometimes depending where you live, it can be hard if you live in an apartment complex and there's bright lights, or you're in a downtown area where it's more lit up. It can be challenging, but there's options. You can get really good blinds, curtains. Oh heck, you can just, even at night, worst case scenario, pin up a sheet or something just to create more darkness. There's sleep masks. So there's ways around that to help make your room really dark, because that definitely does support a better sleep. Now, the one I want to end with talking about, I did read And I can't remember who it was or what journal article I was reading, but it was a tip or a suggestion that they felt, it was a group that felt was really good for, offsetting this problem that people have with falling asleep and staying asleep as they get older. And they call it, I think they call it a 20-minute reset, sleep reset. And what they propose is this. So you go to sleep and then 3 hours later you wake up. They suggest doing something light, some kind of light activity, whether it's reading or maybe just some light stretching, like a breathing exercise for 20 minutes and then going back to bed. Their theory is that some form of light activity will help bring that alertness and that awareness down to a point where you are able to crawl back into bed and fall asleep much more easily. They follow that up with, if after 30 minutes you are still lying there wide awake, get up and do that again. I'm not saying it's wrong because I've never tried it, but I do question a little bit. I question that, if getting up, if you're already up and alert, if doing anything, will it work? And it might. This might be one of those things that, it worked great for me, did not work so great for my husband. So that is something that if you're really struggling, you've got a great routine pre-bedtime, you do have a healthy lifestyle, you're avoiding stimulants that keep you awake, your room is nice and dark, you're doing all the right things, but you're still really struggling, the 20-minute sleep reset might be something. At this point, what do you have to lose? So you might want to try that. So that is, again, you wake up, do something light, okay, not jogging, not jumping jacks, not powerlifting, nothing like that. Some stretching, some nice stretching, maybe some reading, quiet sort of meditative type music or more like sounds, those white noise sounds. Try that for 20 minutes, then go back to bed. And if you fall asleep, great, then this works for you. But if after 30 minutes you're still not asleep or you're really, really wide awake, then you try it again. So that's an option. Okay, so that's my video on sleeping and why it is a little harder to fall asleep as we get older. You're not nuts. It's a real thing. Hopefully some of the tips and suggestions that I have in the video will help you, and hopefully you share them with somebody else that you know who can maybe benefit from them. Now before you go, again, make sure you check that pinned comment below for that forward head posture fix, because good posture certainly can help support better sleep. I'm Coach Tonya with Critical Bench. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.